Hi everyone, thank you for joining us today here in the Post family living room. Because of COVID, we couldn't physically gather together right now for a proper funeral or a celebration of life ceremony. So instead, what we'd like to do is have a video tribute to my grandma, Carole. And so my mom, Gretchen, is going to start us off with her eulogy.
My mother was born and raised in Buffalo, New York. As a New Yorker, she told me stories of how cold it was and how much snow they had in Buffalo. According to my mom, it snowed so high back in her day that mounds had to be shovel plowed out of the city via train. My mom's childhood home of 362 East Utica Street was ingrained endearingly in her brain. Going to Niagara Falls was a favorite, quite a magnificent sight to behold just 30 minutes away. The Buffalo Zoo also was close, a 5-minute car ride, and my mom would travel there by foot. My mom had a hard knock childhood growing up in the 30s post-Depression period through the 40s. Her mother, Edwina Walker, died mysteriously when she was 7 years old. Fortunately, my mom learned to play the piano early on, which offered her solace and joy. Despite the father listed on my mom's birth certificate who wasn't in her life and was a miss, a former business associate, boss of Edwina's, known to my mom as Uncle Kenny, was a constant fatherly figure in my mom's life. He saw that my mom had what she needed, provided memorable Christmases, the best schooling and summer camps, and Uncle Kenny's wife took my mom clothes shopping. Grandparents took care of my mom up until her tween years. When my mother's grandparents aged to the point that they could no longer care for her, Uncle Kenny asked his wife if they could open their home to my mom. Sadly, no. Uncle Kenny then put an ad in the paper to see if there was someone out there with room in their heart and home to essentially foster a teenage girl. A married lady by the name of Margaret Ryan answered that ad. My mom called her Aunt Margaret. She was a strict Catholic, had good principles, and watchful eyes when boys started coming around. Parades, I was told, were visible from certain windows of Aunt Margaret's New York home. Aunt Margaret and her husband raised my mom during her teenage years until she graduated from high school and married her first husband. My mom was 18 when she married Pete Allen, who also was born in Buffalo, New York. They moved to Washington, D.C., where he was stationed and served in the U.S. Navy in the early 50s, followed by being employed by the U.S. House of Representatives. My mom and Pete had 2 children, Mike and Debbie. Early 1956, a woman saw how speedy and beautifully my mother tickled the ivories and asked if she could type. Of course, was the answer. That lady put my mom in touch with someone on Senator Capehart's staff, and that was the beginning of my mother's 30-year U.S. Senate career on Capitol Hill. In the late 1950s, my mom and Pete divorced, and my mom married David Stevenson, who worked in the Senate Superintendent's Office of the Architect of the Capitol. My mom and dad had 2 children, David II and I. My mother stopped working on Capitol Hill from 1965 to 1976 to run a household, care for 2 children, taught piano to children and adults in her home, and held piano recitals at nearby facilities. Our family had a docile and loyal medium tan brown Cocker Spaniel that my mom named Dusty Dover, Dusty for short. I am grateful to my mom and dad for finding ways outside of school to engage me in all sorts of activities such as piano, dance, golf, swimming, and cheerleading, which largely helped me keep my focus on and attributed to my staying out of trouble. I also thank my mother for being a good fitness role model for me insofar as spot exercising and free weight body toning. My brother, their son, in my eyes was like Simba in The Lion King, to carry onward my dad's family name. The sports activities I recall my brother being active in were swimming at the pool and in the ocean, skateboarding, weight training, drumming, and exploring. As a family unit of 4, we would take 4-hour car trips to visit my dad's North Carolina family. We thoroughly enjoyed those visits with family, plus pastime activities like swaying on the front porch swing, playing with toy cars and trucks in the dirt, walking to and from the general store, churning homemade ice cream, watching Brunswick stew being made, stirred in a huge pot outdoors, pond fishing, petting hunting dogs, etc. My mom and dad's marriage dissolved in 1976. I was 16, 1 year shy of graduating from high school, and David was 10 years old. As part of my mom and dad's divorce, my mom asked to keep and was granted to continue with her name as Carole Ann Stevenson. My mom loved my dad's North Carolina family like her very own, and continued to visit them years after their divorce. My mom returned to work on Capitol Hill in 1976 and initially commuted to D.C. via the MARC train from Bowie. I worked in the Senate too and would occasionally visit my mom at her office. My mom conducted herself professionally. She was on her A game and was quite a lady working on the Hill, and I admired those qualities. When my mom turned 50 years old, she received a call from Aunt Margaret, who relayed that Uncle Kenny was her real dad. He left it up to her to tell my mom when she felt it would be appropriate. Kenny had died by that point. My mom naturally felt all kinds of emotions, but at least she found out the truth. His actions during her youth now made sense. Then my mom met Jimmy Thompson, who worked for a branch of the U.S. Senate Sergeant-at-Arms. They became 2 peas in a pod, lived together as happy lifetime companions and partners for nearly 40 years. After they retired from Capitol Hill, my mom asked me what I thought or how I'd feel if she and Jimmy moved to North Carolina. I hesitated for a few seconds and gave her my blessing. If that's what you wanted to do, then go for it. My brother felt the same way. They left skid marks on the pavement as they moved to Wilmington, North Carolina. Not really, but it was without haste. Since we grown children couldn't beat them, we sure enough found ourselves joining them, visiting as often as we could. In North Carolina, my mom and Jimmy gladly retreated to the slower pace, enjoyed the quaintness of the area, the southern charm, home-style cooking restaurants, beaches, and shops galore. Those were 12 memorable years they shared together in Wilmington, North Carolina. Each subsequent Christmas time, with the exception of one due to a medical reason, Jimmy and my mom drove up from North Carolina to Maryland, much like Santa's sleigh on wheels, to share Christmas Eve and Christmas with their children and families. Jimmy predeceased Carole in October 2015. Although family encouraged my mom to move back to Maryland, she didn't have the heart to leave her North Carolina home and friends then. 2.5 years later, I got a call from my mom saying she couldn't live down there alone anymore. I became aware that some very kind friends of my mom's, to whom I'm truly grateful, had been looking after her for some time as my mom's health had been declining. In early April 2018, my brother and I brought our mom back to Crofton, Maryland. David and I gathered a fuller sense of our mom's health. She repurchased, sold the same 1-story condo she previously owned in the 80s. I had gone through the so-called good, bad and the ugly, with my mom. A wise one told me to keep the faith. Thanks to the support of my family, plus prayer and scriptures, I was built up to provide care for my mother. 1 Timothy 4:8. If anyone does not provide for his relatives, and especially his own family, he has disowned the faith and is worse than an unbeliever. That is deep. I took this charge seriously as I tried to honor my mom's wishes. Needing more socialization, enrichment, safety, and care than what David and I, plus hired helping hands in home, could provide, my mom took up residence at Brightview Crofton Riverwalk, Wellspring Village, for 4.5 months. She experienced joy within that small-knit senior community and got the TLC she needed. I enjoyed visiting Mom at Brightview. We shared quite a few dinners together there. My mom went in a rehabilitation center following right hip replacement surgery. Physical therapy did not progress as hoped. She had a couple hospital stays, then finally received palliative care with Hospice of the Chesapeake at the Mandarin House. At Mandarin, staff observed and remarked how strong of a lady my mom was. During the last 2 years of my mom's life, something unexpected happened. Our hearts grew and our relationship bloomed. My mom and I talked and forgave bygones and each other for current day mistakes. We discovered how many things we had in common besides our good looks. We enjoyed shopping and eating out together. IHOP pancakes were among her favorite. We enjoyed going out for car rides and simply just sitting on park benches overlooking the pond to watch nature unfold before us. We got to know each other as mature women, even as humbling as it was for my mom when I became more like her parent and she more childlike. As in Malachi, the contemporary English version, I experienced firsthand that, quote, he will lead children and parents to love each other more, close quote. I love you, Mom. God bless your soul. May you rest in peace. See you on the other side. And now I'll read a card on behalf of Mike Allen, Carole's firstborn. With sympathy in the loss of our mother. The life that she lived will always be remembered. The ways she touched hearts cannot be erased. The smiles and the laughter she created will live on forever. Even in this time of grief, may her memory carry you on to brighter days. Gretchen, Mom has left behind many everlasting memories that will never be forgotten. She was a beautiful soul, kind-hearted, avid piano player, loved dancing, and a hard worker with many achievements. I loved her dearly for her understanding, thoughtfulness, and encouragements. Dusty, her beloved dog, and Jimmy are now reunited in the kingdom of God. Mom is now at peace, no longer suffering or in any pain. God will guide her through the gates of heaven and into eternal paradise. I know it will be difficult living in a world without her to talk with, seek advice, and face hard challenges that lie ahead. God bless, stay strong, and peace be with you. Love, Mike. And now a note from Marilyn Martino, a close friend from Wilmington, North Carolina. Carole and I were neighbors for many years. One of our favorite activities was sitting at the pool every day during the summer. Since we both moved to Wilmington from the Bowie Crofton area, we had many experiences in common. I have missed Carole since she moved back to Maryland. Goodbye, dear friend. May you rest in peace.
Hi, it's Angie from Brightview in Crofton. I am letting Miss Carole know how much we love and miss her here at Brightview. I'm sitting at the baby grand piano where she taught me how to play Heart and Soul. And she was a joy to us. We miss her so much. Her bright blue eyes and beautiful smile always sit in our hearts, and we loved her so much when she was here, and I can't thank her enough for teaching me how to play Heart and Soul, and she did it with such grace and kindness. And when I sat her here the first time at this baby grand piano, she had played everything on the upright and the back and wellspring with one finger. The first time she sat here, she played the most beautiful song on this piano. My mouth was agape, as was hers, because I think we were both so happy at that very moment. So we love Gretchen, you, your family, and wish everybody the best of everything. Love and miss you. Bye.
That's pretty jazzy. Woo!